So, welcome everyone to our CCC Photo Time. I'm Kari, and I'm here with Cheryl and Colleen, and we make up the Consistently Creative crew. And we meet every Wednesday evening at 7:30 Eastern or 6:30 Central for about an hour and a half to work on our photos. We started out with primarily doing scrapbooking layouts. Traditionally, it has evolved to some digital layouts as well as some things about photos. And I am a forever ambassador and I like helping people organize their photos. And so tonight, we're actually taking a slight detour. And even though we normally spend a lot of times thinking about our photos and memories, I hope that you'll find some of this information tonight in kind of a side topic, helpful. So most of the time when we think about organizing, we usually think about photos, and that's understandable because we just do that every month. But over the past few months, I realized I was spending a lot more time searching for information than I was searching for photos. As many of you know, we relocated from Ohio to Texas, and we were packing up our things for quite a long time. And I needed to find things that I could no longer access the physical copy because they were in boxes or some box somewhere, and I may not know how to get to it. In addition, we had to replace our credit card 2 days after we got here because of fraud. We needed appliance information in the old house versus the new house. We got a new router, needed to share that with people. And so it just kept on coming that I needed information that I couldn't lay my hands on the actual physical item. So it struck me that what I was doing wasn't just really preserving memories. It was about how can I make everyday life easier, because that's a lot of what I needed to do. So I have a handout that kind of goes along with this presentation that everybody here is here live with me has access to. If you want it, it's on our Facebook page so we can get it to you. So if you're watching the recording later on, if you're interested in that, you can let me know. So a question for those people who are here, I already kind of shared with you, but what are some of the things that you find yourself searching for more than once? Maybe it's not something that you search for all the time, but maybe it's something that you actually have to find occasionally. So I mentioned like my Wi-Fi password. Um, and that's one of those things that, if you have to go and read it off the back of a Wi-Fi router, it's kind of a pain, and sometimes it's really hard to get to. And if yours was as old as my sticker on the last router, half of it had rubbed off. So I have some kinds of ideas here, but what kinds of things have you searched for in the past month or so?
Passwords.
Passwords. Very good.
Passport numbers and expiration dates.
Passport numbers, expiration dates. Yes. Yes. Very
Just
good
today,
one.
I was looking for a phone number for my credit card company because I found a charge that wasn't ours on there and I needed to call them.
Yep. Yep.
My printer setup.
Yeah.
Oh, your printer setup. Yes. Yes.
And they change your router, everything has to be reset.
Oh, yes. Yes. Anybody, what about like printer cartridges when you go to the store?
Yes.
What was that number again? Which was it? Was it 67 or 68? And
I have to
yeah,
look at mine every time.
every time. I think somebody else started to say something.
Historical medical information.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. When did this happen, or when did that happen, or when did I start taking that medication, or what year did that, diagnosis or medical procedure happen? Yeah, very true. Those are excellent. Anything else come to mind? All right. I think you guys had had some great ideas, a lot of things that I've been thinking about. And obviously, I'm not the only one. So, something that I've talked about before with many of you is if you've searched for it more than once, it really deserves a home. And that's something, a philosophy that we have in our house for a lot of things is that if you're searching for it, it needs to have a place where it's kept so you can continually find it. And we really want that place to be easy to access, easy to find, and available when you need it. So, if you, are looking for any of those things, it's, a good thing to have. And like I found as I was moving, some of those things were in a box. Now, I probably knew which box number they were in because my husband kept a great inventory list of what was where, but I didn't exactly know where that box number was in that massive pile of boxes on the one side of the room. So it may not have been as easy to get to when I really wanted it. So, what I'm kind of referring to is something that I'm just calling a family reference library. That isn't really an official term. We don't have to call it that, but it's simply what I'm calling this one place for the information that your family relies on. So there's a lot of people who have specific binders for them or other things that you could use for it. I'm just going to use that term tonight to be able to call it something as I go through this. And I saw we had somebody put in the chat that most of those things are things I try to keep in Evernote, which is a great idea and a great option for that. So your reference library can include things like photos and PDFs and screenshots and business cards. And the nice thing about having it digital is like what I found as I was moving, I could have access to it digitally much more easily than I could if it was in a filing cabinet drawer that was no longer in the filing cabinet because it was in a box. And there's a lot of things that we have easy access to by just taking a photo or just doing a quick screenshot that can suffice and be adequate enough for that. So the format doesn't necessarily matter. What matters is where are you putting it? What are you, how are you capturing it? And can you find it? So what I kind of broke things down into some groups to just kind of dive a little deeper into some of these, I don't know, groupings is what I was thinking, is that when something breaks or you need a part, could you find what you need quickly? And there's a lot of things that you might need. You might need a serial number. You might need a filter size. You might actually need that receipt or proof of purchase. What are maybe some other things that kind of go in that vein when something breaks? What are the kinds of things that you might need? Anybody have any other
Warranty
thoughts?
info?
Warranty info. Yeah, like when actually did the warranty start? Is it still good? Right? What about repair info? When was something repaired? If you had your car that needed to go into the mechanic because it needed some kind of update, has it been there since that whatever notice that you had? Having that information easily accessible. What else?
I'm big on having owner's manuals. When
Owner's
you could
manuals.
get them.
Yes. Yes. That can be really helpful. There's a lot of information in our owner's manuals, and I know some people who are big on reading them cover to cover, and there are other people who don't even look at them at all. So I think everybody varies in that, but I think that's a great thing to have. What about contractor information? Like who was that contractor who did that particular type of work on our house or our car? Because it could be, 5, 6, 7 years before you need them again. And I don't know about you, but my memory is not good enough to remember what was his name again? What company did he work for? I might be able to find it in credit card receipts, but It may not be that easy because I invariably don't really remember exactly when that happened. So I like the idea of keeping that contractor's info or a business card or even just a screenshot of the phone number, because then I can say who that was. Um, so these aren't all like really important documents, but they can save you time and frustration as you move through life. Anybody have any other thoughts before I move on? All right. So the next category that I have is, what about when you have a medical emergency? Can you find the information that you have? And I think somebody had already mentioned earlier about having a list of medical history is really helpful. But what about a summary history if something were to happen to you or something were to happen to someone else in your family and you weren't there? How do you have that information available? Is there something easily accessible that could be shared if you need it? um, and more people have drug allergies, and I have one, my daughter has one, and it's important that people know that if there was an emergency. So those are the kinds of things that I was thinking about, but you may have some additional ideas. I think one thing that additional thing that comes to mind is my daughter's a type 1 diabetic, and she has a type 1 diabetic alert uh,
Right.
pin or thing on her that she actually puts on her shoe to tell anybody if she was in like an auto emergency, was unconscious. Um, and the emergency techs are now trained to look at people's shoes. So that's a really good place to put it now, as opposed to necessarily wearing a bracelet or a necklace. If they don't have it, you can also have it on your emergency screen on your phone. But if somebody else, was helping you, what kind of information would they need? So this is some of the other kind of groupings that I had come up with. All right. What about when you travel? Somebody had already mentioned about passport numbers. And I know back in the day when you traveled, you were supposed to take a photocopy of your passport, like your information sheet, with you. And it wasn't supposed to be kept with your passport, because if your passport was lost or stolen, you wanted to have that information sheet so you could go to the nearest consulate and take it with you. I know when we lived overseas that was something that we had, and we were told to have them in separate places. But I also know that now when you're renting a car or renting a hotel or renting some other types of places, if you take the email confirmation with you, they can be pages and pages long, but maybe you don't need all of that. But maybe you do need access to some additional information. You don't necessarily need to carry every piece of paper.
For people who travel with their pets, they also need the pet history.
Very true.
Vet records, etc.
Right? Whether you're traveling via car or via plane or anything else, right? You do want to have that information with you. Yes, very true. I know some other Forever ambassadors, before they take a trip, they create an album in their Forever account, and they actually put their itinerary there. They put their hotel reservation number there. They put their flight information. They put it all there. And then they know that they have it, and they don't have to scramble and look for it. So as they're making reservations, as they're, finishing those things up, they have it all there. And some people who do a lot of travel find that to be a really good way of keeping a good checklist. Like if the hotel reservation is there for trip 1 and trip 2, but not trip 3, they know that they still have to make it. So it's also a good way of keeping track of all of those things. Okay, now next grouping was when somebody else needs to help. So what happens if your pets are being watched for you, you have a pet sitter or a babysitter? What kind of information do they have available? It possibly could be in a binder, but it could be digital, depends on what you're doing. What if you're gone and somebody is watching your home for you and there is a, bad storm and a tree falls on your home or there's flooding in the neighborhood or something like that? Would people know where to find the information? Would they know, where is your water shutoff? Where is your breaker panel? How would they get in contact with, various things? So what other thoughts come to mind when somebody else maybe needs to help you out?
We just had this happen. We were away and the cat sitter was coming in twice a day and the power had gone off, just blipped. But it set off the alarm system
Mm.
which the previous owner had, which we don't use, we don't pay for,
Oh,
but it's still every time you open the door, it chimes or whatever. And as soon as we moved in, I turned that off. But I don't remember. That was 2.5 years ago. I don't know what I did. I just pushed buttons until it stopped. So
right?
the cat sitter calls me and says, the cat's a little freaked out because this thing is going off all the time. So I called the neighbor and said, could you please just go over there? I can't tell you anything. All I can tell you is it flips, the front of it, the control panel, you flip it open, and that's all I can tell you. I know nothing. And she was able to do like I did, just fiddle around with it and get it to turn off. But I still don't know how it works. So I need to know.
Well, I guess maybe you need to ask her, how did she get it to work, right?
Or I could turn it back on again and then turn it off. See if I can make it work. But yeah.
Yeah, so it can even happen in a place that you don't even, you don't know, you don't remember, right? Um, yeah, and you also had water in your basement not too long
Yes.
ago too,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Right? So there's all sorts of things that can happen when you're away. It's not just me who has these things happen to them.
Not just you, Kari.
All right. So as I mentioned, right after we had gotten down to Texas, it's a great timing to have your credit card replaced because you haven't had to put in your address to any place yet. So that was a real interesting situation to try to deal with all of that. But all the things that need to be updated. So now that we just recently went through all of that, and I know when you get a new credit card periodically every couple of years, or when they decide that there's some issue and they need to send it to you, it's helpful to have a list of all the things that you need to update, all the subscriptions that are changing. Well, what kinds of things that do you know that you need to update when you do have your credit card updated or replaced? Because it's one of those things that we just love to deal with. So does anybody have anything on automatic payment that would need to be replaced that goes directly to their credit card?
Too many.
Too many.
Yeah.
Almost everything is on automatic payment.
Almost
I went-
And
everything.
then
Those are
there's
my-
vendors that you shop with that have your
Yeah.
credit card number.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got
And
a whole
maybe,
spreadsheet.
right.
Yeah, I've got a whole
Yes.
spreadsheet, and anytime one of them switches to where it's just got, changed or paid and rolls over the next year, I move it to the other end of the spreadsheet.
Yes.
I
Yes.
track it all year long.
It can
That's
be
great.
quite a
That's great.
thing, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how many of you have come across this, and I may be the last one to the knowledge base, is that so my husband and I both have a credit card on the same account, and so does our daughter, and that's the one that actually had gone through this fraud right when we were moving. But now our new cards don't have the same numbers.
Oh,
They all have different numbers.
Yeah.
And I guess
Wow.
this is a fairly new thing, but I'm not sure how fairly new that is. But we got a notice that we can't use each other's card number because we've got our own independent card.
Yeah.
So,
Are they paid independently too?
no, they are paid together. It is still through the one credit card account, but they are three separate cards with not only do we have our own names on them, which we've always had, but our numbers are different. The 3-digit code is different. So that made it a little bit interesting too, because, okay, whose name is on that automatic payment that goes with that card? And now that our zip code is different than it was 2 weeks ago, it's been really a puzzle. We don't have them all done yet, but I didn't even know that they were doing that. But apparently that's a fairly new thing because I'd had one
I think
card.
it's been in the last, yeah, I think it's been in the last couple of years because I had that started for me about last year sometime.
Okay,
Apparently it's
because
not a choice, but
it was,
we had our card had to be replaced and it was less than a year ago and we got the same number on both of our cards.
yeah, one that we
be
had
different
replaced earlier this
companies.
year were the same number too. Sorry, Deb, what'd you say?
It could be different companies too, I guess.
It
Yep.
could be. It could be.
Different
I,
banks.
Yeah.
yeah. I had an Amazon problem. Corey, I told you I ordered my scanner. And I
Yes.
guess when I had my Amazon account, I had my home phone number on it. Didn't have a cell phone number or don't have a current one. So when I ordered it, evidently they tried to send me a text to verify it, I guess because of the amount.
Right.
Well, I got that my card was declined. I said, no.
Oh, jeez.
So I
Yeah.
called them and he said, we sent you a text or whatever. And it was my home phone. So they didn't have my cell phone number. So I guess you need to, I never thought about that, but I
Right.
gave them my cell phone number. So now they can text me, I guess, for any big purchases.
Right.
But they
Right.
denied it because
The
they couldn't
text
get
and
me to approve
landline.
it. Yeah, because we got rid of our landline.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So credit card replacement, it's a big thing. As I found, like our zip code changing was a
Yep,
big thing, right? We had things denied because the zip code that our
that's
new
right.
billing address didn't match the old billing address, and they want that to match.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, so
Okay.
yeah, all for convenience, but when something goes wrong, it can be really challenging.
It is.
So, other things around your home, kind of as I've been walking around, I was looking at things. It was like, okay, like our air filters, water filters. I've already talked about Wi-Fi, um, but breaker panels. So it came up since we moved down here. Our realtor called us in Ohio and said, the lights aren't working in the
Mm,
master bedroom. Do you know? And we're like, go down to the breaker panel and see what's been tripped. I mean, I have no clue. But I do know in some of our previous homes that the writing on the breaker panel
Yeah.
where they have, the listing, the index, gets faded over time. So I have a brand new one and it's labeled. We've now taken a picture of it. So I've got that. So if you have a breaker panel that's been labeled and you can still read it, it might be really helpful to do that and get a picture of it. So and then obviously there are times when they're mislabeled and you figure it out later on, but adding that to it. And I could see from this picture that I grabbed, there's this area that somebody put like some white tape over it and wrote over it. I don't know if you can see that very well on the screen, but it was like there are times where you actually, need to update it or add to it. So those were a couple of the things that I thought of, but you might have some additional thoughts on other things around the house.
It's not just the house, it's your car too.
It's your
Yes.
car too. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
If
Any
something
other
happened to
vehicle
your
you may
car,
own.
would you
Yeah,
know your tag number? I don't know my tag number.
Yeah.
right.
I'd have to hunt it.
Right, right. Yes, yes. And it's not just your license plate that you
Mm-mm.
look at all the time, right? It's the, their tag that's on there maybe to go through a turnpike or a toll road type of thing, right? I have no idea what that number is. No
And
clue.
your VIN number, you'd have to have it if you reported anything stolen, I guess.
True.
I
Right.
would, I'd have to hunt it.
I would too, which again might have been in a box, right? So,
Or in the glove box in the car,
which doesn't
your
help me.
registration.
Oh, right. 30 years ago, I had my car stolen. I had to call my husband at 12:30 at night and ask him what the tag number is on the
Mm-hmm.
car because I couldn't tell the
Oh,
police.
oh
Right.
my gosh. Yeah, yeah,
Got the
yeah.
car back.
Good.
But
And when was the last time you had your car inspected, right? There's a lot of states that have various inspections for various things, and notoriously, if you have multiple inspections, they're not always at the same time, depending on, when
States.
yeah, different states, different time frames. It's like, oh, when was the last inspection? I have no idea. So, something else. So, I think there's a lot of things, right? Um, One other thing that came up recently was thinking about paint colors. Is we were asked in our last house what paint colors on the wall. I don't have a clue. I had no idea. That was a long time ago, and it was most of the house was whatever the builder put in, and yeah, the painter was looking at it and trying to go close, and I don't know, pick something. Right now, I know what color was used in this house, but I probably won't remember that 5 years from now. So paint colors can be also helpful to know.
Yeah.
So uh, this one's a little bit different and kind of where I started, but thinking about things that you use that are not really emergencies, but makes you think, now, where did I put that? And maybe you're not at home when you need it. And that's probably the thing that I've looked for the most is what was my printer cartridge number because I can never remember them. And they're, even when I get a new printer, it's typically similar to the last one and the digits are very close. And so I don't know. And even when I go to the store, it's like I can't tell from the box which one it is. But other things like recipes, um, what did I need to pick up, or if I want to make a certain thing, and my library card. I don't normally carry my library card because honestly, it got to the point where I had a membership card for this place and a library card for that place and my credit cards, and there were just too many things to carry around. And I got to the point where I stopped carrying them around. So a lot of the things I just didn't have and didn't carry with me. I don't know about you, but those things that you can put on your keychain, the little plastic cards, and you can end up with like a dozen of them and it starts getting heavy. So there's all these loyalty programs for all sorts of places. So um, maybe this gives you some thoughts or something else comes to mind for you about what kinds of things you might need repeatedly or have to search for over and over again. And I think there's a lot of ideas on the handout too. Any of them on the handout jump out at you as something that you might need or want?
Yeah,
Well,
there's a couple on there.
I think the handout is a great place to start, and you can expand on that as time goes on as you think of other things. I think my first thought when I looked at this is all really good ideas. This is a lot of stuff to get together.
Yeah.
But if you break it down in parts, like say, take her first category on the first page, well, maybe a medical emergency stuff. Just take that one category and say, this week, I'm going to gather together what I need for this, and I'm going to put it in a place that's accessible no matter where I am.
So people who are watching the recording aren't going to necessarily have any of these. So I think, Christopher, you started to say something else, but
Well, I was going to say that now maybe I'm just anal retentive, and that's probably very true, but I've been keeping this kind of detail in Evernote for years since Evernote came out. Before that, I kept it in all kinds of other note-taking software going back to the first stuff that ever came out. But I worked in IT, so I constantly churning through detail. Um, the problem with it is, say my phone's stolen, then I got to find something I can get to Evernote in. If someone else needs access to that data, the only other person who really can get to it is Kathy. And that's if she goes to our password system and looks up the password I use for Evernote, which she, almost never uses.
right,
And then if my son needs it, he doesn't have access to, he has access to the password system, but he doesn't have access to my part of it and Kathy's. Um, the the plus of using Forever to do this is the people in your family you've already given access to Forever, which is a growing number, um, can be given access, I guess, to where you're keeping all this. I'm just trying to think of how, Evernote's really easy for me to on the fly update, and I have to do it all the time. We use Evernote for a checklist every time we travel.
right,
Everything we pack, everything that we had to take with us, and a checklist. But um, I'm thinking, you might have all kinds of PDFs that you put in a place for people to be able to see it, so that if my brother needs to get in there, he can. If my son is one of my three sons needs to get into it, you know, they would have access to it in Forever in kind of a private album.
right.
Um, and I've already got one up there with our wills in it and all that sort of thing for them to be able to access if something happens to us. The only thing I'm trying to figure out is how hard is it going to be to update the content you put in there, because the only thing I can think of being able to put in there easily besides photos would be PDFs.
Right. Well, and I've thought a little bit about that, so I will get to that. I'll be to that in just a few moments, but those are really great thoughts. And yeah, I agree with you. Depending on what your system is and how is it going to work. And yeah, Evernote has been around and you're comfortable using it, but like you said, there's some limitations. So there can
And
be
it
some
doubled in
advantages.
price.
Right. Yeah.
They just doubled the price on it, and I'm not happy.
Well, then there is
Oh,
that
I wouldn't
too, right?
imagine. That's a huge hike.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I will then kind of get moving forward, but so like I said before, sometimes the best documentation is a photo. I mean, like of my breaker panel, there is no reason to take some major fancy photo of it. I just need a simple snapshot with my phone is adequate. Same thing with the furnace filters or uh, filters, printer cartridges, things like that. It doesn't have to be, a high resolution photo where you dig out your SLR. You don't have to take a scan of some of these things because these aren't like for memories that are going to be kept forever and ever. They're just really documenting what you have. So, um, I think Christopher was commenting about reviewing it regularly. And as I was thinking about it, there's a lot of things there's a group of things that change regularly, like on an annual basis, like insurance cards, whether they're for medical or car records, maybe the vaccine records and vaccines for your pets, because those will change on a fairly regular basis. But then there's a lot of other items that just don't change unless you actually move or something is replaced or updated. So some of these things aren't going to change, at least very often. So one of the things I was thinking was utilizing, my favorite thing was using metadata, using a tag to identify those things that might change that needs to be updated. So you could identify things within your Forever account that need a review. And I was thinking the easiest thing was to it needs a review next year. So you could just identify those things that might change, and then you don't actually have to go through everything. So let's say you went through this list over the next couple of months, and maybe you put in, I don't know, let's say you put in 50 things, be it PDFs or snapshots or other things, pictures of cards or whatever. But maybe out of those 50, there's only 8 that are going to change on any sort of regular basis. You really don't have to go through and look at them all. You could just look at those 8 and you can identify them with a tag just to have that there for you. And then when you review things in the next year, you could say, okay, well, now those have been reviewed. I'm going to review them again next year because I know I'll get a new insurance card or whatever. And you can do it on a periodic basis. So that was one thing I was thinking about, kind of keeping it current and using metadata to do that. You could also put the words in the album description as far as that this needs review. And if you use that word consistently for just this type of thing, when you type in review in the search bar, you're going to come up with all the things that need periodic review. So that was one thought I had. And the other is, and that I really like the idea of using your Forever account for this, was the fact that you could put a document, it could be a private document. It could also be something that was shared. So we know, and Christopher mentioned that he has his wills out there in his Forever account, and those are pretty much private. You can have them set up to be shared with people after you die. But there are things here that I've been talking about that might be things you want shared with somebody who's house sitting for you, like the Wi-Fi password. You could put that all in a shared album that you give other people access to, be it family members or, the neighbor who might need to have information, or the pet sitter or whoever. But you can have that one item organized in multiple ways, and it's not duplicated, so it's not taking up double the amount of space. And so there's lots of ways of doing this, but I think that Forever offers a number of organizational strategies that should make it fairly easy to be able to do this. So hopefully those couple of ideas gives you kind of a starting point to think about, and think about what you might be able to do. So I want to kind of just circle back to the idea of, there were a lot of things that we talked about that, you searched for, and that is kind of like the best place to start. Thinking about things that you've had to recently search for. Now, I'm kind of an anomaly because I've had to search for everything lately because of the move, being in 2 different states. My daughter had surgery. We had our credit card number taken. So, I've had to deal with everything, which is kind of, atypical, right? But what are the things that you had to, search for or look for or share with somebody? Maybe it, like Debbie mentioned, she placed this order and realizes that, Amazon didn't have her cell phone number. They had an old landline number. Things like that, things that you've had to deal with recently. is really the best place to start. And once you've identified a couple of things that you've had to search for or had to share, think about, where do they belong? Where's the best place for them so that you can find them when you need them, so that way you can minimize your searching. And then add one item to whatever system you're going to do. Now, if you're going to use your Forever account, you're going to create an album for this. We've had other albums similar to it. It may kind of merge into the same thing. Tonight, I was really trying to think about things that were different than what we talked about before, even though there's some overlap. But think about how you can start with one of those items, so that the next time you need them, it's easy to find, and your future you is going to thank the present you for doing that. So my final thoughts on this are really that the best organization system is the one that helps you find what you need when you need it and allows you to access it when other people need it also. So I'd love to hear any additional comments or thoughts that you have, and I hope tonight was helpful.
Oh, definitely very helpful. I spent an hour and a half trying to find the model number of the refrigerator so I could order a new water filter.
Oh my goodness.
You
I
know,
understand that.
they hide all that information now. They don't want you to find it.
So Colleen, now that you have that information, you've got to start. Just put it in
Yep.
Yep.
where you're
That's
going
the
to save
first
it,
thing
and you've
that's
got
going
your
on my
start.
list. First thing going on my list.
That reminds me when we moved into the house, they had left all these warranty cards along with the manuals for a lot of the major appliances that came with the house. Well, there were some that weren't there. And so but maybe I had just the manual and I didn't have the card. So I'm looking and I'm like, where is the serial number, model number? So I had to actually go online. I went on to ChatGPT to say, okay, where is the model and serial number on a range hood over the gas cooktop? And it had me take a picture of it, and so it could actually see the brand. And it's like, oh, take the filter off and look underneath the filter. So here I am, taking my camera and, revert saying, so I could just hold it to it and taking a picture of it. I couldn't even get my head underneath there. I never would have found that without some help. But now I have the picture, and the picture is obviously in my Forever account. But I never would have thought about that, but it has a warranty on it. So, I obviously wanted to do that. So, yeah. So, Colleen, I understand your your thing there.
I think we
So,
probably all feel her pain.
Yes.
yeah. 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 Well, I thank everybody for being here this evening. So my plan for the rest of the evening is we still have some time. We can work a little bit. I'm also intending next month. I have one thing that I'm going to do in September, but I am planning on having kind of a big work session because there's been a number of times where I've shared some things and we've worked a little bit, but maybe not come back to it. So I'm going to send out a list before the next photo time in September about some ideas of things that you can actually work on. So maybe we can make some progress towards some of these. But I will have a short demo next month because I wanted to show how the new video editing feature works. And I had told a few people I would do that, but I'm like, I've got to do it after I move. I just could not go through all the details, and they've made some updates to it even since then. So for now, I think I'll pause the recording. Maybe I can actually think I can get it. So we had a nice conversation about a variety of additional things that people had come up with while we were discussing some of the things that were shared tonight, more ideas that came up with, including a lot of additional things for your house or things that people have needed. So I hope if you're watching the recording that you found some this very useful for you. And again, if you are interested, we did create a PDF, and that is available on our Facebook group, Consistently Creative Croppers, which is our group, and their PDF is there. But you can also email us at consistentlycreativecrew@gmail.com. So if you enjoyed the recording, we'd love to hear your feedback, love to hear your comments, and feel free to message us or send us an email. Thanks so much for watching.